I think. Get that wide angle going. Should I do that? Let's give that a try. Is this better? Might be better. It might be better. Maybe it's not better. Does it matter at all? I don't think it matters. Same size of the, yeah, oh. Yeah, no, it shouldn't matter at all. Okay, so 2 minutes, just going to get some water and get set up. Now, in the meantime, if you have any questions that you really want to go over today, make sure you drop them in the comment section below, because then I can go over them. Otherwise, this is going to be a practical session. So that means we're going to go over self-massage techniques. If you have a lacrosse ball, great, use it. If you have a tennis ball, that will work too. Otherwise, if you have nothing like that, of course, feel free to just tune in for just to learn about the techniques and then repeat it later on. Just a quick note, I went to Decathlon yesterday and I got something super funky. This is this is also a self-massage ball, but listen to this. It's a vibrating self-massage ball, which is very interesting. I have not really tested it very well yet, but I think it has potential. Okay, anyway, 2 minutes and we'll get started. Okay, so let's get started. Today we're going over who is watching. I can't see. Can you say something in the comment section so I can at least talk to you sort of directly. Today we're going to go over this. So the lacrosse ball method. So basically, any sort of muscle tension, muscle knot, stiffness, soreness in the muscle that you would normally try to cure or take out of the body by going to a massage therapist or to a physiotherapist, you can do all of that yourself. So hi. So you can do all of that yourself. Now I don't know if you know, but this is one of the books. Or basically a practical guide more than anything that I released 2 years back, but it's still very, I'd say very handy for these times. This is in the 60-day challenge, so you should have a link to the Google Drive file, and you can find all of the techniques. It's not really a book, it's just a guide, so you'll have an anatomy, all the different sections, and then you'll have a, you know, an explanation of where to put the ball, how to stand, how long to do it for, what kind of issues you can work with. So this entire book you can find in the 60-day challenge. If you want it, you missed it for some reason, give me your email address you want to receive it on. I'll just give you the link to the book. Now, what we use for this idea, for this self-massage, is either a tennis ball. This is really for beginners because it's a bit more squishy. If it's painful, and it will be painful, then this is the best thing to start with. Then Decathlon sells these. These are kind of, you know, advanced, still kind of squishy, can still, you know, has a little bit of give, but a little bit harder. Then this is for the real pros. It's a Lacrosse Ball. I think nowadays there's more people that use lacrosse balls for massage than for actual lacrosse, because who plays lacrosse? And they sell them at Decathlon, by the way. And then if you want to go super funky, there's these. I don't know if you can hear it, but it vibrates. So it gives you a little extra, I don't know, stimulation. Anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to cover a couple of points. And I'll explain you how to do this. So if you have a ball ready, you can just join in. And if you don't, you can just try it later. So one of the areas that I think is most valuable, is really a big favorite, is between the shoulder blades. So right in the middle of the back, of course, we have the spine, the spinal column. Don't put the ball on the actual bone. It's not necessarily dangerous, but it's just not beneficial, and it really hurts, and it hurts in a different way than the muscle techniques. So make sure that you find the spine first, right between the shoulder blades, and then take 1 or 2 centimeters away from it so that you can get on the actual meat, so to speak. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just lay down. I'll explain as I'm doing it, so that you can take a look at the technique. So, the first couple of times you need a little bit of, you need to play around a bit with the technique and where you place it, because it's a little bit tricky. So I'll lay down on the back, turn over to the right side, and pop that ball right under the shoulder blade, there. I don't know if you can see. My arm is going to be over the body, because my shoulder blade will move out of the way. If it's here, my shoulder blade is going to cover all of the good stuff. So you want to get that arm out of the way, get the other hand behind the head to support it. You don't have to do this, but I like it this way. And now I'm just going to use my, my legs from this position to move around. So I'm just doing very small parts at a time to explore the area. The area between the shoulder blades is about a hand tall. So from the top of the shoulder blade to the bottom. And it's also about 4 fingers wide from the shoulder blade to the spine. So you want to kind of maneuver in that rectangular area to see what's going on. There's multiple muscles there in different depths, in different directions. So you really have to move around and explore a little bit. Now, I am mostly using my legs for this. So by changing the direction of my knees, I can have less pressure or more pressure. If I'm putting my knees towards the ball, I'm getting a lot more pressure because I'm just kind of, you know, leaning into it. Of course, if you bring your knees away, you can take some pressure off. The first couple of times when you do this, it can be really painful. So either take a softer ball or feel free to take some pressure off. Now if you want to go real hardcore, later on, you can just lift your hips off the floor and kind of dig into the area like that. But initially, you really won't need that. Now, second, once you're in position, you can grab your arm, try to keep this relaxed, and start to kind of bring it over the head. As you're moving the arm, I'm moving a little bit too fast now, but to illustrate the point, when you're moving your arm around, the shoulder blade is going to move around as well.
there's some hidden area that you can't get to with your arm in the normal position. And then when you start to move it up or in, you can actually, reach those areas easier. There's one more even advanced technique. I wouldn't do that from the start, but you bring your arm behind the back, which is the kettlebell, the shoulder blade, and kind of opens it up, and then you can dig underneath the shoulder blade. Not everybody has this ability to do this, so feel free to give it a try, but you might not really get value out of it when you're just starting this. Now, as we're in this position anyway, I'm going to go down and change to the trapezius muscle, which is the muscle right here between the shoulder and the neck, the one that you use when you're shrugging up. So, I'm just gonna scoot down, and I hope you can see well, but the ball is now directly on that muscle. I don't have any pressure on it though, so if I want to actually dig in, I need to bridge up. Get this out of the way. And from here, I can use my legs again to bring my left shoulder, in this case, into the ball. I'm not doing anything with my arm, I'm just using my body weight to kind of worm myself into that position, for lack of better terms. And I make it look like it's not painful. It is pretty painful. And of course, if you can't do this particular position, you can do it against the wall as well. So envision if I'm just standing against the wall right now, my legs would be more like this, but you'd have to have your legs a little bit away from the wall to have that sort of diagonal pressure, okay? So, this technique, put the glasses back on for a second. This technique you can do laying down, hardcore, or you can do it against the wall, and that's for most of the techniques. Start with the wall if it's painful. It's not bad for it to be painful, but it should be, you should be able to still relax. So if you're on the floor and you're like completely spasming up from the pain, it is really too much. There's no benefit if you just end up creating more tension. Okay, so this is a very thankful area to work on, and what I did not explain yet, and you'll find this in the book too, is what we're looking for here in the muscles is, we call them trigger points. So imagine if the muscle is made up of hundreds of fibers, and those fibers, they can all kind of contract and relax, contract and relax. Sometimes, whether it's because of trauma or posture or training or poor nutrition or different factors combined, you can have a couple of those fibers and they basically are stuck in a contracted position. And as a result, the blood flow goes down, the area can become tender, can become painful, and later on it can start to send signals to other areas in the body, or it can affect the joint that it's connected to. So in this case, when the muscle connects the shoulder blade to the head or to the skull or to the spine, you might start to notice that, you know, the head doesn't turn very well, or you can't rotate or bend, or whatever the case may be. Neck area, also very common to cause headache related issues. So sometimes it happens that people come in with headaches. Once we can find the area of the headache and connect that to the muscle that refers to that particular area, then treating the muscle often takes away the headache. And that works pretty much everywhere in the body. Now, it's not always connected. Sometimes when you have pain in the arm, you actually have an arm problem. But it's always important to see if the area where you feel it is the area where it comes from, or does it maybe originate from somewhere else? Okay, so what we just did is exploring the upper back. There's two ways to treat. Let's say, if this would be the upper back, right, the area, I'm rolling around, let's say here, right here, I'm finding a point and I go, you know, you get the face. Once that happens, stop moving. Stop moving, keep the pressure on that area, and do one of the two techniques that I find most valuable. One is pressure. If you know what Shiatsu massage is where it's a Japanese massage where they find a point and they put pressure on it and they hold that pressure steady for about 30 seconds usually, and then sometimes you feel the muscle go kind of deflate like a balloon. You can do that to yourself. So put pressure on that point, hold it, try to relax, breathe, hold it for about 30 seconds, and sometimes you can feel the muscle go or the pain starts to go down. So you put the ball on that point and you feel a 7 or 8 out of 10, and then after 30 seconds it's suddenly a 3 or a 4. That's the moment that you start to roll around again and go to a new point and try to see if you can relax that point and restore the muscle tension. Second option is sort of micro massage. So you stay on that point and start to make very small movements on that particular point to help kind of loosen the area up, right? Now, one thing is important. This is not the same as this. So make the movements small. You want to stay on those couple of fibers that you're focusing on and work on that particular area rather than just going all around. And you'll notice the difference. From an outside perspective, it should be almost impossible for me to tell whether or not you're moving. Such small movements. So now we'll do the exact same process for the glutes, which has a very strong influence on the legs, the knees, and also for the for the lower back. So first I'll show you the position, then I'll tell you how to sort of explore in that area, and then afterwards I'll show you both techniques. So one would be the pressure point Shiatsu type release, and the other would be the micro massage technique. So take the glasses off. I'm going to show you on the right side first, because my left side is very painful. So I won't be able to speak if I do the left. Okay, so for this technique, we can lay down. That's the positive. Then there's this bone on the side of the hip. It's the widest part of the lower body. So we just kind of follow along. There's this massive bone sticking out. That's our reference point. Now, what we want to do is try to see if you can hook the leg over. This is going to open up the hip. I'm going to lean to the other side so that I can find that bone and put the ball right on there. As you can see, it's kind of on the back pocket area. Doesn't have to be exact because we'll move around anyway. So from here, I'm going to turn my weight back onto the ball, and this is where, this is pretty painful on this side too, actually. So, as you can tell, I just got the face. So from this point on, we're going to explore first. The area is kind of like a triangle area between that bone, the ridge of the pelvis, which you can kind of feel here on the side where the belt would be, and then the tailbone. So it's a pretty big area, so it needs to be, it deserves some time to be explored. And when you're doing this for the first couple of times, you feel like you're just finding more and more painful points. Now, that doesn't mean that you are getting worse. It just means that you get more comfortable or more familiar with the different parts and different areas. And sometimes, once you start to relax more, you can sink deeper into the muscle as well, and you'll find, ooh, just an extra layer that you didn't know existed. Okay. Once you've moved around a little bit and explored that area from pelvis, belt to back pocket and tailbone, then you can increase and decrease the pressure just like before by allowing that knee to kind of drop down to the floor, or exactly the other way. So this is taking pressure off, this is taking full pressure on. Okay? Now, let's say that I found a point. I'm actually going to move that ball slightly up because I found, yeah, there's a point right over here. Now, to remind you, number one is just going to be that Shiatsu technique where you keep pressure. So right now what's happening is I feel about a 4 out of 10 pain. Pain intensity, I would say. I actually feel some referred sensations on the inside of the leg. Now, it could just be stretch from this position, but I definitely feel something going on here. If you're interested in how those connections line up, you can just Google, and I can put a link in the group if you want, referred pain map, and then you'll find almost, you know, sort of an anatomy poster with all the different muscles and where they refer to. Now, it might make 0 sense to you when you initially see it, but if you're interested, I can show you what that's like. So this is about 30 seconds, and what I felt initially is pretty much gone now. I'll show you the second technique. I'm going to move slightly to another point, which would be here, and now I'm going to practice those small massaging techniques. And you should barely notice, because the only thing I'm doing is slight movements up and down, or side to side, depending on how you want to see it. And I'm just very small, almost kind of wiggling, and kind of wiggling the ball into the different grooves of the muscle. That's kind of the best way for me to describe it. And you spend about 30 seconds just kind of, you know, digging around. Basically, I'll take the pressure off for a second. So, since it's a big area, spend about 3 to 5 minutes exploring the area. One thing that I wanted to say is in CrossFit and other sports, sometimes they refer to this practice as smashing the muscle. I'm not a big fan of that term, because the relaxation that you get from it is not necessarily because of the mechanical input. So it's not that you're actually taking out mechanical knots. I think most of the benefits come from a reflex between the brain and the muscle. So what happens is you put pressure on those muscles, you basically create a stretch effect on the muscle. After a certain amount of time, 30 seconds, sometimes it can take a little bit longer, your muscle says, oh, this input is fine, it's not a bad sensation, and there's a message that goes to the central nervous system, and the brain then can tell the muscle it's okay, you can relax now. And that reflex, that's where the benefit is. So it's not necessarily the harder you press, the better. It's more about how much or how well can you relax with the intensity that you're giving. Hope that makes sense to you. That doesn't mean you cannot go hard, by the way. If you want to dig into the muscle strongly, that's typically fine. Okay, so I'm going to show you how you can very easily switch from the glutes to the side glutes, which are the smaller, the medium-sized glutes, and the front, the hip flexors. Very easy, but it is a little bit tricky in terms of the placement. So before we were here on the bone back pocket, right? Now what we're going to do is we're going to put this leg out straight. We're going to find that bone again, and there it is, and the ridge of the pelvis. So you should be able to kind of push in, and then here there's a ridge of bone. Now between those 2 points, where the front pocket would be roughly, there's a fist of soft spot. So between 2 bones, a little bit of softness over there. I put the ball right there. Now, what I'll do is turn all the way over. See if you can see this. Get the shirt out of the way. Support my head again. and I have this leg to take some pressure off, and this is really, really painful. I was not expecting this actually, and very strong referred sensations to my shin and to my toes. Now I've actually had some back problems over the last week or so, maybe I should have expected to find something here. I don't want to do the left side, but I will. Now, so changing from the back to the side gets you in an entirely different area, which is still connected to the hip lower back complex, and if you have lower back issues, this is the one to try. I've actually, and this is no exaggeration, I've seen people that have had low back issues for years come in, only work on this, and just solve the issue. That's a very rare case, but it just goes to show that there's a very powerful effect that you can get from this. Now, there's one more neighbor muscle. It's exactly on the front, like where can you see that from here? There's one more bone that sticks out on the front of the pelvis. It's quite pointy. You'll know if you find it. Between that bone and the big bone that we've tracked a couple of times now, there's a muscle that runs diagonally to the side. If I just ever so slightly turn myself onto the ball, I'm going to put my knee down on the floor, and automatically this change of angle puts the ball right muscle, which is the TFL, is one of the hip flexors, and again, very strongly connected to lower back issues, especially if you sit a lot. So I'm not sure you can see, but I have my big toe on the floor, and every now and then I just lift my knee off the floor to change the angle. And now, rather than just changing the angle, I can also scoot up a little bit or scoot down. So the muscle is about 3 fingers wide and a finger size long, so to speak. In my case, that would be quite small. If you have long fingers, then I actually don't know if that's true. But about this. Anyway. So try to make sure that once you've found your spot, try to relax your foot and your hip and your knees. So I always tell people to wiggle the toes. Imagine that your leg is really heavy, sink through the floor with your leg, and then just spend some time in checking out these areas too. And then I'll repeat the exact same steps on the left. So hook the leg over. Area number 1 for the glutes, lower back. Turn your weight onto it. Oh, it's actually not that bad. It is pretty bad. Oof. Second, straight legs, or straight leg. Ball on the side. Turn over. Support the head. Ugh, yeah, this is pretty bad. Wiggle the toes. Relax. Ooh. Sometimes when I do this, I think to myself, why do I do this to people? You know, it's good to go over this every now and then by yourself, to be reminded what it's like if you actually have an issue. It feels very different if there's something going on there and the area is a bit sensitive. Oof. Now from here, just slightly lift yourself up, turn sideways a little bit, and drop your knee to the floor. And we're on the muscle of the front, that hip flexor. Sorry, I'm a little bit close to the camera, so it's difficult to see. You get the point? Okay. So, these techniques